Hello and welcome to my Old Joe channel. I am Old Joe, and I've been watching episodes from the old 1972 TV series called Search. It's a little known series that was a favorite of mine back when it aired on Wednesday nights when I was a young teen. So if you like my content, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment below. Episode 5 of Search originally aired on October 11th, 1972, and it was titled Live Men Tell Tales. Before this rewatch, with 50 years gone by, I couldn't begin to tell you what the episode was about. But while watching it, I did get a strong sense of deja vu. Certain things about it were absolutely familiar as I saw them play out during the show. So let's dive in and talk about the episode number 5 of Search. And beware, spoilers do lie ahead. We open our show with a teaser as usual, and then after the teaser, the opening credits. I noticed that this episode is the first to have a writer other than series creator Leslie Stevens. The episode writer is Irving Perlberg.
Irving Perlberg was born on December 29, 1925 in New York City. He was an associate producer and a writer. He served as associate producer on 58 episodes of Dr. Kildare. He was the producer of 2 episodes and associate producer of 47 episodes of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. As a writer, he was known for writing episodes of Dr. Kildare, The Virginian, The Courtship of Eddie's Father, alias Smith and Jones, Search, Columbo, Ironside, Cannon, The Rookies, Beretta, Policewoman, Quincy M.E., Hawaii Five-0, Falcon Crest, and The Paper Chase among others. Irving Perlberg died on June 29, 2008 at the age of 82.
He would write one more episode that would air in 1973. I also recognized the director, Mark Daniels. I recognized his name from Star Trek.
Mark Daniels was born Daniel Marcus in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on January 12, 1912. He directed hundreds of television episodes and made-for-TV movies between 1948 and 1989. His entry into the world of directing came in 1948 when he directed the Years Ago episode of the Ford Theater Hour. He directed 13 more Ford Theater episodes at CBS Studios in New York between 1948 and 1950. In 1950 and 51 he directed 23 episodes of the Nash Air Flight Theater, also in New York. He married script supervisor Emily Daniels in 1951. The couple moved to Hollywood. They worked together on I Love Lucy where she was a camera coordinator and he directed 39 episodes. Some of his other directing credits include 20 episodes of I Married Joan, 31 episodes of The Goldbergs, an episode of Gene Roddenberry's The Lieutenant, 4 episodes of The Man from U.N.C.L.E., 7 episodes of Dr. Kildare, 9 episodes of Ben Casey, 10 episodes of Gunsmoke, a couple of Mission Impossible episodes, 3 Bonanza episodes, 15 episodes of the original Star Trek, half a dozen episodes of The Outcasts, a few of The Flying Nun, 19 episodes of Hogan's Heroes, just 1 episode of Search, 7 episodes of The Doris Day Show, 5 Kung Fu episodes, 33 episodes of Marcus Welby MD, a couple of Hawaii Five-0, 10 episodes of Flow, and a whopping 86 episodes of Alice. Just to name some of his many directorial works. Mark Daniels died on April 23, 1989 in Santa Monica, California.
This week's rotating probe agent is Nick Bianco, and of course he's played by Tony Franciosa.
Anthony Franciosa, often credited as Tony Franciosa. was born Anthony Papaleo in New York City on October 25, 1928. Shortly after graduating high school, he auditioned for and got a part in a play. He began using Franciosa, his mother's maiden name, as his stage name when he began acting professionally. He ended up on Broadway with a Tony Award nomination. But Anthony Franciosa had his sights set on Hollywood. His good looks gained him appearances in several films in 1957. And he was nominated for Best Actor in 1958. His quick ascent to fame was apparently too much for him to handle. And it was followed by a sudden fall from grace with showrunners, when his combative personality labeled him as difficult to work with. He once spent 10 days in jail for punching a photographer. Because of his quick temper, he was reportedly fired from the NBC series The Name of the Game. He is probably best known for starring in the Matt Helm television series. Anthony Franciosa died of a stroke on January 19, 2006.
We open Act 1 with Nick Bianco in Probe headquarters, and he's with the man in charge, VCR Cameron, who's played by Burgess Meredith.
Burgess Meredith, born November 16, 1907, was well known for his portrayal of the bookworm in the first season episode of The Twilight Zone titled Time Enough at Last. He is probably best known for portraying the Penguin in the 1960s Batman TV series, as well as the movie by the same name. He was active in the film industry for more than 6 decades before his death at age 89 on September 9, 1997.
Bianco and Cam are watching some home movies that were taken about a month ago at a birthday party. But this is not just any birthday party. It's the birthday of Krishna Singh, the undisputed head of the Calcutta underworld, and the man is shown enjoying time with his family. The next video they see is of explosions and armed men. That's how the man died last week. Cameron's theory is that one single man is now attempting to take over all of organized crime on an international basis.
You're assigning me to find out who he is.
Yes, we always try to give you the juiciest plums.
Appreciate it.
So Cam is assigning Bianco because as Omega Probe, Nick is the specialist in underworld power struggles. As Cameron is giving Bianco his assignment to find out who's behind the plot to take over international organized crime, they get an emergency video call.
Emergency transmission. Backup frequency D7.
Now at first I expected to see Dr. Barnett on the video screen because this is usually about the time he calls in. But he's not in this episode.
Probe control. Come in, probe control. Do you copy?
Identify yourself.
You're the Pihilas to Provenit, Yugoslavia.
He is played by Martin Koslek.
Martin Koslek was born Nikolai Ayoshkin on March 24, 1904 in Barkhotzen, Germany. Born to Russian Jews, he was outspoken against the Nazis while working in the German film industry. He was forced to leave Germany when the SS was determined to execute him. He came to Hollywood and began playing evil Nazi villains in war films. He played the part of Joseph Goebbels in several films. On television, he appeared in such shows as The Rifleman, The Outer Limits, Get Smart, 12 O'Clock High, The Girl from U.N.C.L.E., The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Batman, The FBI, The Wild Wild West, Mission Impossible, It Takes a Thief, Hogan's Heroes, Night Gallery, Search, Love American Style, Banachek, and Sanford and Son. His final acting credit was as Horst Borscht in the 1980 film The Man with Bogart's Face. Then he turned to painting. Martin Koslek died in Santa Monica, California on January 15, 1994.
Cameron reminds him that he's on an emergency channel, to which the man responds,
I'm reporting the death of probe agent our unit, Peter Kubica.
Kubica. We have been trying to contact him.
The man says that Kubica's death appears to have been an accident, but they're not sure.
I'm sorry. He was a friend of yours.
Cam realizes that Nick and Peter were friends.
Yeah, he's an ex-police officer. We worked together back on the crime commission.
It's only fitting that Bianco be the one to inform the wife of Agent Kubica.
Yes, sir. You always give me the juiciest plums.
Nancy Kubica is played by Leslie Charleson.
Leslie Charleson was born on February 22, 1945. She got her start in television in 1964 when she appeared on the A-Flame in the Wind TV series. She has made many appearances since, including parts in As the World Turns, The Wild Wild West, Mannix, Adam 12, Search, The Rookies, Emergency, Medical Center, Ironside, The FBI. Marcus Welby, MD, Love is a Many Splendored Thing, Kung Fu, Happy Days, Canon. Barnaby Jones, The Streets of San Francisco, Black Sheep Squadron, Macmillan and Wife, The Rockford Files, Diagnosis Murder, and Friends. She is probably best known for her role as Dr. Quartermaine in the daytime soap opera General Hospital, where she appeared as recently as May of this year.
He used to love to go to foreign places and secret assignments.
Nick tells Mrs. Kubica that her husband had died in a scuba diving accident while on holiday. She's surprised, saying that her husband had never been scuba diving in his life. He's afraid of water.
He didn't even want to go in a rowboat.
This revelation has Bianco traveling to Dubrovnik. He meets with Josip, the probe who reported Peter's death. They chat at a cafe where the agent explains that Kubica was close to discovering the identity of the man who was trying to take control.
In another week, 2 at the most. I'm sure he would have come up with the name of the big man, the one we are looking for.
Tell me, why did he suddenly take a vacation?
Oh, he had to. His boss invited him here to Dubrovnik. If he didn't come along, he'd arouse suspicion.
He just happened to go scuba diving.
And he didn't come back. A woman named Magda Reiner called the police.
Does Bianco have a reaction to the woman's name because he recognizes it? Or is he just surprised that a woman was involved because he knows Peter Kubica is a happily married man? Anyway, she called police after Peter had missed a dinner engagement. And they found Kubica's body wrapped in seaweed under a breakwater. The probe agent says that the woman is no longer staying at her hotel, but he has a photo of her, and Nick holds that picture in front of his scanner and taps the device. As probe control attempts to track down the woman, the men pay for their drinks and they depart. Their waiter watches the men as he starts to wipe the table. Then he throws the cloth down and heads to a payphone to make a phone call. When the two probe agents duck into a quiet alleyway to contact probe control, a motorcycle with a sidecar attached attempts to run them down. Bianco is about to have Cameron ID the man, but Josip says he knows him. Bianco has Cam arranged to have Kubica's body exhumed. As the workers are digging up the grave, our friend, the waiter from the cafe, shows up in the cemetery. He's listening as the men open the casket and Bianco asks Josip,
How well did you know him, Joseph?
We only spoke on the phone. Why?
That's not Peter Kubica.
Nick is off to Paris.
Control and being tailed. 2 of them. Reiner put them on the scanner.
Back at probe control, Cameron guides his aim so they can get photos of the men.
Zoom. Freeze.
They're processing those pictures when Mrs. Kubica phones in.
We have a private call on telephone system. Mrs. Kubica.
All right, Miss Kubica, Cameron here. We have been trying to reach you.
I know. I appreciate you calling.
I do not want to raise any false hopes, but it is just possible that your husband is alive.
He arranges to have her come in to probe control. But meanwhile, back in Paris, Bianco is in a public restroom freshening up. The two goons approach the sinks on either side of him. Nick dries his face with a paper towel. He smiles, and then he attacks the two before they have a chance to react.
You know who they were?
No, I haven't figured out the connection yet. But a bottle of brandy says they're working for Superboss.
There's no bad, but I will give you further information. We've learned where Miss Reiner is staying.
Beautiful. That is it.
Thank you very much.
The woman looking in the mirror in the fancy hotel room is Magda Reiner, played by Louise Sorrell.
Louise Sorrell was born Louise Cohen on August 6, 1940. Her father was film producer Albert J. Cohen and her mother was actress Jean Sorrell. She studied theater in New York, appearing on Broadway in the 1961 comedy Take Her, She's Mine. She appeared in many episodes of television series beginning in 1962. She appeared in nearly 500 episodes of Santa Barbara and more than 1,000 episodes of Days of Our Lives. Some other notable shows were The Doctors, Dr. Kildare, The Fugitive, Bonanza, The Virginian, The Big Valley, The Flying Nun, Daniel Boone, I Spy, The Rat Patrol, Mannix, Star Trek, Night Gallery, Search, Banachek, The FBI, Ironside, Hawaii Five-0, Get Christy Love, Medical Center, Kojak, Quincy M.E., Vegas, Charlie's Angels, The Incredible Hulk, Magnum P.I., Heart to Heart, Trapper John M.D., Knots Landing, Different Strokes, Simon and Simon, Matt Houston, and as a nurse in the movie Airplane 2, the sequel.
When she answers the door, Nick introduces himself and he asks to come in.
Miss Reiner, how do you do? My name is Nick Bianco. May I come in and see you for a moment?
The fact that your name is Bianco is hardly enough reason for me to invite you in.
Oh, yes, of course. Would the name Peter Kubica do the trick?
Come in.
Thank you.
We switch back and forth between Paris and Probe Control, where Mrs. Kubica takes a seat next to VCR Cameron, just in time to hear Magda Reiner explain that
Peter Kubica's alive.
Yes, he's very much alive.
the man in his grave is a petty criminal. She goes on to explain that the ruse was at Peter's direction.
Why?
Because we're very much in love.
At this revelation, Nancy Kubica makes a hasty exit from Probe Control. Nick leaves the hotel. He's still being followed. We open Act 2 with Probe Control still working to identify those two thugs who are on Nick's tail. In the next scene, we see Nick's car drive up in front of Magda's hotel. He opens the passenger side door to let her out. There's some small talk between the two, and Nick mentions Kubica. He asks where Peter is.
What does that make? 7 times you've asked me and 7 times I've said no. Tell me something. Has any woman ever said no to you that often?
7 times? No.
Well, I've established a record.
Nick escorts Miss Reiner to the hotel's revolving door. Then he returns to his car to find Nancy Kubica in the passenger seat.
I resent you being seen with that woman. After all, she's my husband's girlfriend.
Nancy, what are you doing here?
The way she's tracked him down, I'd say she could make a pretty good probe agent. So later that night, Nick gets an anonymous phone call in the middle of the night.
Hello.
Monsieur Bianco,
Hmm.
if you wish information on the whereabouts of Peter Kubica, you will go immediately to 37 Rue de Bac.
Now, he should have known better than to fall for such an obvious ambush tactic. The two men who have been following Nick are perched high above the street with rifles. As Nick crosses the street from the hotel, he drops his keys just as the snipers open fire. get off a total of 4 rounds before Magda drives up in her Mercedes and blocks their shot.
Hurry up. Come on.
Act 3 opens with Nick in bed. He wakes to find Magda Reiner in his room. She offers him a croissant.
Croissant?
Oh, no, thanks. No, thanks.
Oh, how are you? You're not used to waking up and finding a girl in your room.
Not if I didn't put it there.
I put myself here.
I guess one of the bullets must have grazed Bianco's head because he's blacked out and she's brought him home. Nick wonders how she just happened to be there at just the right moment in the middle of the night.
It's amazing. It's really amazing.
What?
That you should just happen to turn up at that particular moment.
Well, it wasn't altogether a coincidence.
Oh, really? Well, what was it then?
Actually, I was on my way to see you.
At 2 o'clock in the morning?
Yes, I was going to return this. The homing device you so skillfully planted in my purse.
We see her leave the hotel and she gets into her Mercedes. Then she gets a call on her makeup compact.
Yes.
I'm not accustomed to arranging someone's death, only to have everything go wrong.
Bianco is one of their best agents. If he's killed, Probe will do everything to get to the bottom of it.
I guess this is Mr. Big, the man who wants to rule the underworld.
Well,
Soon, Mr. Stonechick, very soon.
I want a precise time.
Torrin Thatcher was born to British parents in Bombay, India on January 15, 1905. He was a teacher-turned-actor who began his stage career in London. He performed Hamlet alongside Laurence Olivier and Vivien Leigh in the late 1930s. He had begun a crossover to British films when war broke out. He achieved the rank of lieutenant colonel during World War II. In the 1950s he moved on to Hollywood, but he never forgot his roots in the theater. He appeared on Broadway in the late 1940s and early 1950s. He made his way into television, often playing villains. Some notable shows he appeared in were The Untouchables, Hazel, My Three Sons, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, Get Smart, Lost in Space, The Time Tunnel, Star Trek, Gunsmoke, Daniel Boone, Mission Impossible, Land of the Giants, Night Gallery, Search, and Petro Shelley. Torrin Thatcher died on March 4, 1981.
See, probe agents have built up a chemical immunity to most truth serums. So it becomes a matter of finding a formula which will be effective.
When the man in charge says he wants it by a certain time, the doctor explains that the probe agent must recover from his surgery first. He'd undergone a procedure to remove his implant, and he must recuperate before they can attempt an interrogation. Back at Probe Control, they have a lead on the man with the tattoo, but it turns out that he's just a minor hood. They relay this information to Bianco. Next, we see Nancy Kubica show up at Magda Reiner's hotel. She goes in the revolving door just as Magda is coming out. As Magda gets in the cab that Nancy had just vacated, Nancy comes back outside. She hails another cab. Meanwhile, Bianco is on the trail of the two thugs. He's just pulled up at their reported address when Cameron tells him to go to the airport because Miss Reiner has just bought a plane ticket.
Come on, listen, she wants me to follow her. I'm sure of that. The trail she left was marked with neon lights. She's trying to lead me away from Kubica.
Which means he's still in Paris.
Inside, the concierge shows him that the two men's room isn't occupied. She doesn't know where they are. He bribes her to keep her quiet about his visit, and she goes back into her office. Nick has Cam monitor the telephone lines. His hunch pays off. The concierge makes a phone call. Probe Control traces the other end of the call to a nearby bakery. He's crossing the street toward the building when he notices the two men coming out the door. One of them is carrying a baguette. The other one notices Nick and pulls a gun. He fires a total of 8 shots at Bianco, missing each time, before the two are able to get in their car. They make a quick U-turn and they fire a bullet into Bianco's left front tire just as Nick jumps on the hood.
And the license number.
We've got it on the tape record.
Then we cut to a pool scene. Magda is at the poolside table waiting for Bianca to arrive. Nancy approaches her. She tells Miss Reiner that she's very beautiful and that she understands why Peter's interested in her. Personally, I was wondering why a guy would leave such a lovely wife and go for that gold digger. But anyway, Nancy says that if Magda won't tell where Peter is, she'll find him herself. As Nancy leaves the pool area, our friendly waiter who was tailing our agents back in Paris shows up to follow Mrs. Kubica. Paris police have located the two gunmen. They are both dead. It seems they've outlived their usefulness. And I have to wonder how useful they could have been. They were terrible shots. But anyway, Miss Reiner appears to be his only lead now. At the underworld hideaway, the doctor is about to administer the truth serum. His leader calls Magda's makeup compact again. He informs Miss Reiner that Nick Bianco never left Paris, and he's causing problems. He tells her that if the truth serum doesn't work, Mrs. Kubica might be able to persuade him. She'll be there soon. Magda returns to Paris and spills the beans to Bianco about the underworld boss who she calls Stone Street. She says she doesn't know where he is. Bianco asks if there's a way to contact Stone Street. Magda tells him about her compact. Nick has her call Stone Street, and Probe Control tracks down the location. Under the effects of the truth serum, Kubica begins to name names of probe agents. When Peter's divulged the last of the agents, Stone Street orders the Kubicas shot. It's about to be the end of the Kubicas, but Stone Street tells his henchmen they should use silencers. That has gained Nick some time to get into position to strike. The gunmen are now ready with their silencers in place, and just as they take aim at the Kubicas, Nick Bianco swings out on some theatrical lights. He jumps onto and slides down some curtains, and then he starts switching some electrical breakers or something. And I don't know what that's going to do to help, but it doesn't take long for the gunman to start shooting at him and ignoring the Kubicas. These guys aren't any better with guns than those other bozos were. Nick gets the upper hand and, as usual, he has the gunman subdued by the time police arrive. Back at World Security's headquarters, Peter and Nancy Kubica, Nick Bianco, and Magda Reiner are just outside the probe control room talking to VCR Cameron.
Out of appreciation for all that you've been through, they have approved the bonus.
That's terrific. Thanks a lot, Cam.
Bianco is disappointed to hear that the bonus is for Peter and not him.
Not for you, for him.
Oh, and a Merry Christmas to you, too.
Ah,
The two couples are headed to an engagement together, but not before Miss Reiner has an opportunity to flirt with Cameron.
enjoy yourself.
Mr. Cameron,
Yes.
I want to thank you again for straightening things out with the police.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Miss Reiner.
Magda.
Magda. Well, under the circumstances, I would do it again and again.
And Cameron seems thrilled beyond belief. At least, I couldn't believe it, because he's heard all about her. He knows what she's doing, and he's going to fall for her fake charms after all that?
He's a very charming man.
Cam? Oh, he's full of charm.
All that power, and he must earn a great deal of money.
He's very busy.
Anyway, until next time, au revoir.